Yeah, we back. Now today we got an interesting video. We're gonna go dive into some documents left behind by the ancestors. And today we have an interesting topic. Today we're gonna be talking about how did the ancestors react when Napoleon Bonaparte was overthrown in 1814. Now today's video is gonna be a follow-up video to one I dropped last week entitled The King of Haiti's 1816 Celebration at the Famous Citadel. Watch that video first before you get into this one. Now today we're going to go into an article from August 16th, 1814. And this article comes a few months after Napoleon Bonaparte was overthrown and he had to abdicate the throne. I believe that happened back in April, and this article came out a few months later in August. Take a look up on the screen. In 1813, Prussia and Austria joined Russia in the War of the Sixth Coalition, in which Napoleon was decisively defeated at the Battle of Leipzig. The coalition invaded France and captured Paris, forcing Napoleon to abdicate in April 1814. Now, in the year 1814, after many years of war and many military campaigns across Europe, Napoleon was suffering defeat after defeat. And eventually, a coalition of European nations came together and joined forces to invade Paris, and essentially, he was chased out of his own country. Even his own generals turned against him, right? It was a humiliating event for Napoleon Bonaparte. And today, we're going to dive into the newspaper articles that came out from the Haitian government, the regime of King Henry Christophe, the Kingdom of Haiti. These are articles coming directly from the national newspaper. We're going to see how did they react to the fall of Napoleon. When Napoleon had to abdicate the throne, he got chased out the country. How did the ancestors react? So we're going to dive into two newspaper articles, one that came out in August and then one that came out in November. Of course, as you know, during this time, the nation was split into two governments, right? In the north, you had the Kingdom of Haiti, right, controlled by Christophe. In the south, you had the Republic of Haiti, controlled by the mixed race generals. In the northern territory, in Christophe's government, it was highly centralized. The economy was based on agriculture. The territory was highly militarized, with military fortifications stationed all across the nation. And of course, as you already know, the various building projects, the schools, the hospitals, the colleges, the art academies, the theaters, the printing press. When it comes to me, I always say the Kingdom of Haiti under Christophe's regime, that was the height of the nation in terms of power, prosperity, self-sufficiency. That was the top of the top. So in today's video, we're going to see how the ancestors reacted to the news of Napoleon Bonaparte getting chased out the country and getting overthrown from power. Now let's get into it. Let's jump straight into the article. Starting from the top, the Royal Gazette of Haiti, August 16th, 1814. After 25 years of a revolution that bloodied Europe and wreaked havoc in both worlds, the European powers have finally succeeded in concluding a general pacification. We are still ignorant of the conditions of the peace treaty that was signed in Paris on May 30th between the Allied powers and France. We are informed only that a new constitution has been adopted on the principles and forms of representative government, and that the ancient Bourbon dynasty has been recalled to the throne of France. Whatever the outcome of these events in Europe, foreign as they are to us, they nevertheless interest the nations that have proclaimed their independence in the New World, and particularly Haiti by its political and commercial situation. In such circumstances, we believe that it is our duty to fulfill the task we have set ourselves towards our fellow citizens by informing them of everything that may interest them and by placing before their eyes our reflections, our doubts, and our hopes. A new dawn seems to be rising for the peace of the world. The glory and renown of a generous, great, and magnanimous king has resounded from the icy extremities of the north to our burning and distant climates. An equally great and generous nation, a philanthropic people whose valor and enlightenment have more than once fixed the destinies of the world, join their beneficent hands to bring about the liberation and salvation of the peoples. Will the kings restored to their thrones, instructed in the schools of adversity, do less for happiness of the peoples than the victorious sovereigns? It is natural to think that, after a long and cruel experience of great misfortunes and disasters and torrents of spilled blood, that France must be desperate for the advantages and the sweetness that comes with peace. It is to be assumed that restorative principles, liberal ideas must have replaced the monstrous and devastating system of conquest that had dragged it to the edge of the precipice and to the brink of its loss. The chimerical and ambitious project of a universal empire, which tended towards the enslavement of all people, having vanished forever with its abominable author, Convinced of these illusions, tired by adversity, most of the men who govern France have returned, without doubt, to more just and more humane feelings. The need to repair their losses and to bring back the destroyed prosperity to their families must make them ardently desire peace, commerce, and the stability of things that alone can make them reborn. Our enemy is no more. The disgraceful Napoleon Bonaparte, who had vainly tried to exterminate us, has just succumbed under the united efforts of the Allied powers. As happy as we are, Europe has just broken his tyrannical yoke forever. Now time out. Shout out to the ancestors. If you notice, they called Napoleon Bonaparte, they said he's a tyrant. They said they have just overthrown the yoke of the tyrannical leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, our disgraceful enemy, right? Shout out to the ancestors, man. Anyway, let's continue. We take glory in having defeated his satellites and in never having wanted to enter into a treaty with him, whatever proposals they made to us, and we can also pride ourselves with just reasons that we contributed to the liberation of Europe by our perseverance in rejecting his perfidious offers, by the valor and the bravery which we fought and destroyed his armies. We never wanted to enter into any treaty with a monster who wanted to exterminate us or re-enslave us under the odious yoke that we have condemned forever. Now, we're going to jump into another article a few months after that one that came out on November 19th, 1814. Now, in the previous article, they were celebrating the overthrow of Napoleon Bonaparte, right? We finally defeated our mortal enemy. But now, the regime that was coming in after Napoleon Bonaparte, the regime that came to power right after, that regime was actually even more hostile than Napoleon, right? And it was actually that regime, if you remember, that sent that ambassador, that sent that representative to Christophe's territory to negotiate for reparations, right? So the next regime immediately reignited hostilities with the Haitian government. So now we're going to go into the article on November 19th, 1814. I believe they're going to talk about the French ambassador that was captured and arrested in the Kingdom of Haiti, right? Let's get into it. As you can see, liberty and independence from the Kingdom of Haiti, November 20th. Let's get into it. A spy sent by Bonaparte, the minister of the navies and the colonies of the King of France, Louis XVIII, had came to spread discord among us and inquire about our internal affairs. He was arrested while fulfilling his exemplary undertaking. Now, time out. Bonaparte, take a look up on the screen. That is this individual right here. This was the French minister of the navies and the colonies of the regime that came to power after Napoleon Bonaparte was overthrown, right? So unfortunately for the ancestors, they were celebrating when Napoleon was driven away from power, but the regime that came afterwards was even more hostile. And as soon as they came to power, they immediately set their sights on targeting the Haitian government. Now, this guy right here, Bonaparte, the minister of the navies and the colonies, he was actually a big landowner in the colony before the revolution. So he was one of the individuals who lost all their fortunes in the revolution. So he was sent back to France, and of course he was vengeful and wanted to get his property back. So as soon as he came to power and he was integrated into the new regime, he set his sights on sending agents and spies into Haiti to reignite hostilities. That's why they mentioned that the spy was sent by Bonaparte. The operation was the work of Bonaparte, the minister of the navies and the colonies, a former plantation owner in the colony before the revolution. Now let's continue. A spy was sent by Bonaparte, minister of the navies and the colonies, to spread discord among us and to inquire about our internal affairs. He was arrested while fulfilling his exemplary undertaking. At first, he presented himself under the alleged name of Medina, but he was recognized to be the famous Augustin Franco, the same one whom the late governor Toussaint Louverture had appointed as mayor of La Vega, who betrayed him during the French expedition. Now, time out. So they're saying that this agent, this spy that was sent by the French government by the name of Augustin Franco de Medina, they're saying that back in 1801, 1802, Toussaint Louverture had actually appointed him as the mayor of La Vega. La Vega is a town on the Spanish side of the island, right? The modern day, Dominican Republic, right? So when Toussaint Louverture took control of the Spanish side of the island, apparently he had allegedly appointed this individual, Augustin Franco de Medina, as the mayor of the town of La Vega. And they said that during the French invasion, he actually betrayed Toussaint Louverture, and I'm assuming he went and took the side of the French. So they're saying that this guy betrayed Toussaint Louverture, and now he has returned to the territory as an agent of the French government. And in this article, they told us that he has been arrested. Now, eventually, he would be killed under the orders of Christophe. Christophe would order him to be killed, and he would die inside the citadel. But anyway, let's get back into the article. Augustin Franco, the same one whom the late governor Toussaint Louverture had appointed as the mayor of La Vega, who betrayed him during the French expedition, and who since has become an ardent and zealous supporter of Napoleon Bonaparte, betraying the cause of his King Ferdinand and his country. This disgraceful man now devotes himself to playing the vile and dangerous role as a spy, the head of the cast of colonists of the former French colony of Saint-Domingue. This Malouette is the most abominable individual in France and the entire universe, because the most puny of the individuals of his caste equals, at least in villainy, the infamous Robespierre. By virtue of the proclamation of His Majesty, our august and beloved sovereign, the secret instructions that Malouette had given to his 3 agents, Mr. Laves, Mr. Medina, and Mr. Draveman, contains truly curious and extraordinary things about the atrocious plans of the French government with regards to the Haitian people. Augustin Franco de Medina also revealed in his interrogations secrets of the highest importance for the Haitian people. When this traitor fell into our hands, the king was at the citadel with the royal family. His Majesty was giving his orders to accelerate the great preparations for the defense of the kingdom. Upon hearing the news of the arrest of this agent of the French, His Majesty went to the royal city of Sanssouci, where he became acquainted with the documents and interrogations of Augustin Franco de Medina. His Majesty, having judged that their content concerned the salvation of the people, immediately gave orders to all the authorities of the kingdom to go to the capital to attend the service which would be sung in thanksgiving to the Almighty for having allowed the criminal plots of our enemies to be brought to the light. Now, time out. So Christophe, they said when the agent was arrested by the authorities, they said Christophe was at the citadel with his family. So Christophe was in the citadel chilling with his family. And then he got the news, hey, big dog, listen, we got a spy, we got an agent of the French on the territory. You got to come down ASAP. So Christophe came down from the citadel, you know what I mean? And once he found out what happened, he said, listen, all the authorities in the kingdom, we got to go to church right now and give praise to the Almighty because we have discovered the plots of our enemies. So Christophe said we got to go to church right now. We got to have a church service right now. We got to go praise God for having uncovered the traps of the enemy. Now let's continue. Consequently, His Majesty, the King, the Queen, and the royal family went to the capital on the 16th. They were greeted by the sounds of cannon fire and the cries of joy from the people, who had come in crowds carrying leaves to meet them. On the 17th, the great dignitaries of the kingdom with their wives, the civil, administrative, and military officers in full dress went to the royal palace to accompany their majesties to the metropolitan church. The choir was draped in mourning, in allusion to the famous prescription that the disgraceful Rochambeau made of the Haitians at a grand ball he gave in Port-au-Prince in his government to the Haitian ladies. This monster had all the apartments dressed in mourning and announced to the ladies that they were attending the funeral procession of their husbands and their parents. The white women lined up behind the blinds laughed in ecstasy at the tears that the unfortunate Haitian women shed over the dire fate reserved for them. Now, time out. In that part of the article, it's a flashback of during the revolution. There was a French general by the name of Rochambeau. I mentioned him before on my channel, one of the all-time Hall of Fame white supremacists. So one day he had invited a group of Haitian women to a party, right? To an event, to a gathering, right? Some type of social event. And essentially what he had did was he had taken their husbands, their fathers, and he had killed them and he had them decapitated. So he invited these Haitian women over to this event to show them the decapitated heads of their husbands and their brothers and their fathers. And ironically, there was no female solidarity. Women got to stick together. But in this article, they said during the revolution, the white women who attended the event, they were laughing at the Haitian women when Rochambeau showed them the decapitated heads of their husbands and their fathers. So in that section of the article, it's making a flashback to an event that took place during the revolution about, over 10 years ago. Now let's continue. The church was filled up with an immense crowd of people who had come from all parts of the kingdom. There was only room for the procession of the king's military household and the regular troops covered in the parade. The foreign merchants were placed next to the civilian corps. Augustin Franco de Medina was exposed before the people, standing on a stool with his back leaning against the column. Now, time out. So during this church service, as you can see, Christophe is in attendance, the Queen is in attendance, Christophe's children are in attendance, the entire military is in attendance, even the civilians are in attendance from all parts of the kingdom, right? This is a mega church service, right? They said the room was filled to the brim. There was no space for anybody to sit. The whole place was packed. And they had presented everybody with the spy, right? They took Augustin Franco de Medina, the spy that was arrested, and they put him in front of the service, right? They put him in front of the crowd. So now imagine you're in a church, everybody's in attendance, and everybody is looking at the spy, right? The spy has been arrested, and now he's being presented to the people. Now let's continue. During the sermon, the Archbishop read the king's proclamation concerning this happy event. Then he read the documents that was carried by Augustin Franco de Medina. The Archbishop often interrupted the course of his reading with judicious reflections to demonstrate to the people all the villainy and the evil of the French agents, and to warn them against their criminal intentions, which are to arm us against each other in order to then plunge us back into slavery and destroy us. The Archbishop having finished, then the Chevalier de Priseau, the secretary to the king, in a strong and resounding voice, read out loud the general council of the nation, the address to the king, by which the council, in the name of the people, expressed its unshakable feelings and resolution to live free and independent or to die. This made the greatest impression. When the Chevalier de Priseau had finally finished, he was succeeded by Baron de Vasty, the king's secretary, who read out loud to the people the refutation of the letter of the French general, Mr. Lavesse, and his refutation of the 4th volume of the collections of memoirs that was written by Baron de Malouet. During the course of these readings, movements of anger agitated the people and the military. In every outrageous passage, one saw the anger painted on the faces of the soldiers, these brave warriors who overcame these criminals with whom we dare to threaten. By an involuntary movement produced by fury and anger, one saw officers put their hands on the hilts of their swords. Augustin Franco could barely stand on his legs. He staggered. He could not breathe. He prayed and commended his soul to all the saints in the paradise, the sanctity of the place. The sight of this brilliant and numerous court, this crowd of richly decorated warriors whom had the audacity to suspect of an infamous baseness, believing them capable of renouncing their rights, so many circumstances combined had weakened all the physical and moral faculties of the unfortunate Augustin Franco. He succumbed and fell to his knees. But when he heard the devastating words of Baron de Vasty, "Friends, at the names of slave and master, let nothing stop the wrath that inflames you. The tocsin of liberty has rung. Run to your arms, to fire, to carnage, and to vengeance." At this call, Augustin Franco de Medina, believing that he saw thousands of bayonets turning against his chest, was seized with fear and fell sick. They were obliged to bring him vinegar and a cordial to bring him back from his youthful terror. Now, time out. So this church service, which was organized by Christophe, and as you can see, everybody is in attendance. Now, they have the spy sitting in front of the crowd, right? So the spy is, everybody is staring at the spy. So the spy right now, essentially, in this part of the article, they said that the spy has just passed out, right? In the article, they said the spy has just lost consciousness, right? Because here you got the entire military, everybody's angry, everybody wants to kill him. They even say in the article, the expressions of anger that was painted on the faces of the soldiers and the civilians, right? Now, they said this man fell to his knees and he lost consciousness. He fainted, he passed out, right? Now, eventually, like I said, he's going to get locked up and they're going to kill him. So eventually he knows what time it is. He knows it's a wrap. So that's why he's having a panic attack and he's, passing out in front of everybody. Now let's continue. After the divine service, His Majesty himself marched the troops into the square and commanded the great maneuvers. The Prince Royal was at the head of the cavalry. The people saw with transports of joy the young prince with that martial air, which foretells to us that he will inherit the courage and the valor of his illustrious father. Now, time out. So they said after the church service where the spy, was terrorized and lost consciousness, they said Christophe marched at the head of the military with his son by his side. So his son was also at the head of the cavalry, and basically they were among the people. So Christophe at the head of the troops with his son by his side, and the citizens, watching, from the sideline. So, Christophe among the people. He wasn't really a king that was, off in the palace Christophe would be among the people, mixing and mingling, and the people could actually get close to him. Not too close, but you could actually, get up close and personal with Christophe. You see him riding by. So yeah, Christophe was definitely somebody who would be among the people, regularly. He wouldn't be, off in the palace, up in the ivory tower. No, he would be in the mix. He would be out in the street. You could be walking down the kingdom and you could actually see Christophe, on his horse, on the corner, right? Just chilling with his bodyguards. But you would see him among the people on a regular basis. Now, let's continue. The grand officers, the colonels, the generals, the lieutenants, and majors commanding the different corps of the troops of the king's military household were in their places according to the order of their numbers. At 4 o'clock, there was a national banquet with more than 1,000 covers, where the dignitaries and the principal authorities of the kingdom were gathered. So apparently, after the church service, which I'm assuming afterwards, Augustin Franco de Medina was taken to the citadel for incarceration. So afterwards, there was a big dinner. There was a big banquet. Christophe had, everybody was eating good, probably eating, steak and rice and everything, just amazing, right? So, we just killed the French spy. Now we're going to go eat some good food, right? Yeah, let's continue. Various toasts were covered by artillery, music, and fanfare. At that moment, their majesties appeared in the banquet hall with the royal family. All the guests rose and welcomed their majesties with cheers of "Long live the king, long live the queen, long live the prince, long live the princesses, and long live the royal family." After their majesties were seated, the king ordered the guests to resume their places. Then, his majesty proposed the following toast and said, "To the glory of my brave and generous people." The toast was covered with applause and cries 1,000 times of "Long live the king, long live liberty, long live independence, war to the death against the tyrants." Their majesties, having risen from the table, were accompanied back to the palace by the dignitaries and authorities of the kingdom. An immense crowd of soldiers and the people followed the procession with the greatest enthusiasm. In the evening, the city was illuminated. There was a grand ball that lasted until daybreak and many celebrations in different districts of the city. So time out. So essentially, Christophe organized this grand church service where the entire audience would be introduced with this French agent that came as a spy for the French government, right? I'm assuming after the church service, they took him to the citadel for incarceration and execution. And then afterwards, Christophe organized a large celebration, national banquet with his wife and his kids and the military in attendance, and everything was lovely. And then they said throughout the entire night until the morning, there was celebrations all over the city, all over the kingdom. We were celebrating after we killed the spy, right? So after the spy was captured and sent away to the citadel where he would die, there was celebrations all throughout the kingdom, all over the city, all over the nation, until the next morning. We partied all night long after we captured the French spy. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, when the French government had sent an ambassador, an agent to the Southern Territory, to the Republic of Haiti, that was under the control of the mixed race generals, unfortunately, they did not stand on business in the same way that Christophe stood on business, right? Like I mentioned before, when the agents arrived in the South, they were invited for dinner. They had a gentleman conversation. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was killed. And they went about their business, right? When they went to the North, as you can see, Christophe had him arrested, had him incarcerated, and then threw a national celebration for the entire population in order to give thanks to the fact that we have captured the enemy and we have vanquished the enemy. And all of this occurred in 1814. So in today's video, we went into 2 articles that came out in the national newspaper of the Kingdom of Haiti. The first one came out in August, a couple months after Napoleon was overthrown. And then this one came out in November. So as you can see, the ancestors, they were celebrating the fact that Napoleon was overthrown and he was driven from power. But unfortunately, the regime that came right after that, they were equally as hostile as Napoleon. And as soon as they got into power, they were sending agents and spies over to the Haitian government, right? And in today's video, we can see what happened to the spy. Unfortunately for him, he would go on to lose his life. He would be sent to the citadel and he would die in the citadel. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, man, I'm not gonna be here too long, man. It's your boy Nefakari. That's Salim back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App in the description. Join the Patreon, man. NTD 1814. Listen, gain access to a bunch of videos that you will never find on YouTube. Several videos, man. Go check it out. A lot of fire on that Patreon. And you know we keeping it stocked up with new videos all the time. I just dropped a new video on the Patreon just a couple hours ago. Check it out. Patreon.com/NCD1814. Link in the description. Pin comment at the top. Check out the album, Sahel 1816. Go to my homepage, go to my playlist section. Enjoy the album, and I'm gone. Peace.
Told me she loved me and said that it's real. So independent, ain't signing no deal. Feel like a king and I'm up at Cap Henry. I'm in the citadel, top of the hill. Trying to run up and we let off a cannon. Secret location, I'm keeping it sealed. You ain't retaliate, Franco Medina. Came to the country and he got killed. You ain't retaliate, Rafi Mans. Thought you was loyal, thought you was real. Didn't even want to come pick up the body. Had your man locked up, he died in the cell. Up at the palace, I'm throwing a party. Right on the south and I'm giving them hell. And my little shorty, she looking exotic. African features, she casting a spell. Run to the check like I work on my fitness. Wake up each morning and handle my business. Said that she love me, she want my genetics. Wanna get married and make it official. Wanna get married and have all my babies. Up in the city, I'm riding Mercedes. Up in the city, they treat me like royalty. Feeling like Dolph, talking about lords. Spreading my wings and I had to get fly. Up in the top, an incredible vibe. Came from the bottom, I'm up in the sky. Gave one look and said, baby, you fine. Wake up each morning and handle my business. They just be talking, you see me, I live it. Ride on my enemies, sounding like thunder. 1804, got that shit in my spirit. 1804 when I step in the building. 1804, that's word of my mother. Rock my women and die for my brother. Never gonna fall when I'm deep under pressure. Tell them we back and they better accept it. Move like a king, every step is divine. Ride on my enemies with no exception. Taking revenge and I'm taking what's mine. Pour up a drink and it's time that we toast. Watching my back, keep my enemies close. Only the family, I stick with my brothers. Cannons position outside of the coast. Heavy artillery for the protection. Move like a general, stick to the code. Feel like a king when I'm up in the north. Beautiful women, they trying to get chose. Launch an invasion all over the south. Capture the capital with all my woes. Look at my energy and my demeanor. Dripping in ice and that's head to my toes. Lately I'm flexing all on the Americans. Flexing my muscle on missing my road. Just got a carriage just coming from London. Boy, that shit cash, I ain't taking no loans. Boy, that shit cash, that's fresh on the boat. Enemy know I got millions in gold. Enemy know I got choppers and cannons. How did I do it? They can't understand it. How did I do it? It's cause I'm relentless. Call me King Harry, my name is cemented. Call me King Harry, I'm up in the palace. Call me King Harry, I'm raising the status.